Here's your review for your exam on Friday. At the top of the page were some vocabulary words. Make sure you understand that translation is a slide, different from the word transformation. Rotation is a turn. Reflection is a flip. Dilation is the enlargement or reduction of a figure. Congruent means to have the same size and same shape. Similar is the same shape but a different size. Corresponding means in the same location but on a different shape. Enlargement is to get larger. Reduction is to get smaller. Horizontally is your x-axis. Vertically is your y-axis. Coordinates tell you where a point is on the coordinate plane. Vertices are the corners of your figure. Pre-image is the original figure, and image is after the transformation. Transformation means to change a figure. Hypotenuse is the longest side of a right triangle. It is directly across from the right angle, and it is always C in the Pythagorean theorem. Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared plus equals c squared, is the formula you use to find the missing side lengths of a right triangle. Distance formula is the use of the Pythagorean theorem on the coordinate plane. You will not need to memorize the distance formula. The question on your test involving the distance formula can also be figured out using the Pythagorean theorem. The converse of the Pythagorean theorem. If the Pythagorean theorem works for three sides of a triangle, then it is a right triangle. If the Pythagorean theorem does not work and both sides are not equal, then it is not a right triangle. Origin is the center of your axes. Number 1, the point -4, -5 is translated 5 units horizontally and -3 units vertically. So it moved 5 to the right and 3 down. Then it is reflected over the x-axis, so the y-coordinate is multiplied by -1, your x stays the same. Your answer should be at 1, 8. Number 2, the point 3,6 is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. It ends up there at -6, 3. Then it is translated 4 units horizontally to end up at -2, and -6 units vertically to end up at -3. The answer here would be -2.
Second page.
Number 3 is using the Pythagorean theorem. You are missing your diagonal, which is your C. When you substitute in 22 and 16 and square each of them, you then add them to get to 740 equals C squared. When you square root each side, you get about 27.2029. The directions told you to round to the nearest tenth, so that 0 tells the 2 to stay the same, so the answer is the diagonal is about 27 2/10 inches long. Number 4, you can take a peek at the work here. That is a challenge question. There will be nothing like that on your exam. The only thing you will need to be able to see is that the diagonal in a solid figure does form a right triangle. I promise you the one on your test that is like that, it's very clear that there is a right triangle. So when you see the drawing of a three-dimensional figure on your test, think Pythagorean theorem. If you were able to do the challenge, the answer was 15 5/10, approximately 15 5/10 inches long. Number 5. Tim and Holly left base camp and hiked 6 kilometers north. So if you start your point, it goes directly up. Turn due west, which means directly west, and hiked 8 kilometers. They stopped, ate lunch. After lunch, they returned to the base camp by hiking in a straight line. A right triangle is formed here. You are missing your hypotenuse. Substitute in your 6 and your 8 for A and B, and you would be able to square them and add them, and 100 equals C squared. This works out perfectly, so you can say they hiked 10 kilometers after lunch. Pythagorean theorem is a good part of your exam. I would really make sure you are comfortable with your Pythagorean theorem. Number 6, consider the statements in the table shown. Select true or false for each statement about the sequences of transformations that can verify that the triangle ABC is congruent to triangle A', B', C'. Notice with your coordinate plane here, it is counting by 2. So make sure when you start counting your translations, you notice that each line represents 2 units. It is true the triangle ABC is slid 12 units to the right and then reflected across the x-axis. It is false that triangle ABC is reflected across the y-axis followed by a translation down. That would leave it upside down from the image here. Triangle ABC is reflected across the x-axis, followed by a translation 12 units to the right. That is also true. Again, don't forget you're counting by 2. Number 7. The original figure is plotted, and then it is rotated. I have the coordinates of my rotation up at the top right corner. Make sure you see that you're going 90 degrees and that you are going clockwise. Then translate that parallelogram. 3 units right and 2 units down. Your new ordered pairs would be S is at -1, -7, N is at -6, -9, O is at -6, -4, and W is at -1, -5. What can you say about the relationship? Well, since the shape did not change, these are congruent figures. Rotations and translations produce congruent figures. We can say that they are the same shape, they are congruent, and those sides are the same size. Number 9, you are dilating by a factor of 1 and 5/10. You multiply each coordinate by 1.5. When you do that, you would get your answers here. How did I do that? Multiplied each coordinate by 1 and 5/10. It is an enlargement because it is bigger than the original. 1 and 5/10 is greater than 1. The relationship between the two triangles is that they are similar. Their sides grew in proportion, their angles are. Number 10, what is the length of the diagonal of the rectangular solid shown? There will be something like this on your test. When you can see the right triangle in there, you have your c squared, your 14 being your height, on that cross section. In order to find the cross section on the bottom, you need to use the 8 and the 12 to find that missing value, which at this time is c. When you find what x is, you're going to find it's going to be about 14 and 42/100ths. Then you will use that as b, the 14 as a, in order to find that missing diagonal length. When you multiply or square those and then add them, you have 404 is equal to c squared, and when you square root that, you get the answer of approximately 20 and 10/100ths. Again, you had to first do the base. You had to first use this here and have your right triangle in here. Once you found this missing side, you were able to use this right triangle. So 2 steps here. Might not have a 2-step one on your test, but you will have a rectangular solid. Number 11, you're describing a relationship. You really need to be able to use your vocabulary here. Make sure you're using the words like congruent, corresponding, rotation, reflection, translation, and understanding what those mean so that you can give a thorough explanation if you were to have a question like this. Number 12 asks you to reflect on the transformation of dilation. Dilation produces similar figures. They have equal angles but not equal sides, but their sides are proportional. Make sure that you have these words, that you understand them and can use them, because you will be asked to do some writing and reflecting. If you have any questions, send me an email before 11 o'clock the night before a test so that I can answer any questions that you might have. Good luck studying, and I know you all will do great.